Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
The Institute for Justice are heroes of mine, and a lot of people who watch my videos are supporters of the Institute for Justice. And I've mentioned before that you can sign up for their newsletter. You can follow them online. You can check out their YouTube channel, which I've been on before. And they are always doing really, really good work. They're supporting really good causes. And I get updates from them from time to time also. And interestingly, I got an update from Scott Bullock, who's the president of the IJ, yesterday. And it starts off with 2 victories for property rights and zoning justice. And so quite often I'll come on here and tell you about they had this case, they had that case. We'll talk about it. Two. They're so busy that they have to lump them together now. But there is a theme here, property rights and zoning. So IJ secured 2 victories to help everyday Americans protect their property rights and pursue their dreams. One is in Nashville, and they're trying to free up entrepreneurs to allow them to run small, home-based businesses. And another is to allow residents of a Georgia town to build and live in affordable small homes. So in Nashville, a record producer and a hairstylist both ran harmless businesses from home. Both completed extensive renovations to ensure adequate soundproofing for the producer and to comply with Tennessee's health and safety standards for the hairstylist. Both had operated their businesses without any interference for some time before the city began threatening to fine them or take them to court unless they shut down their businesses. So home-based businesses are booming throughout the country now, allowing the entrepreneurial spirit to thrive, promoting a favorable work-life balance, and creating new jobs and services. But Nashville didn't agree, so those 2 small business people teamed up with the IJ and the Beacon Center of Tennessee to challenge the city's near total ban on receiving clients at a home business. During the pandemic, the city had relaxed some restrictions, but other more favored types of home businesses faced far fewer limitations than these 2. So now a state appeals court has struck down Nashville's zoning restrictions on these 2 people, writing that the city offered no rational reason for the difference in treatment. And so one of the things I often hear people say, they go, wait, if you're running a business out of your home, isn't that increased traffic, for instance, in a residential neighborhood? Well, it depends on what kind of business it is and what you mean by increased traffic. Because as you can imagine, if you run a recording studio, someone might come over and record. And let's suppose it's a band. A few people might come over and record. How burdensome is that on the local traffic patterns? And for the hairstylist, how often do people come over? And so the ordinances and zoning restrictions got to have some connection to something they're trying to accomplish that makes sense. So the appeals court says that they offered no rational reason for the difference in treatment because they said some home businesses are okay, just not these 2. So 3 days later, the IJ scored a path-breaking win for market-driven affordable housing and against restrictive zoning codes in Georgia. The city of Calhoun's poverty rate is more than double the national average. And like so many other places, home prices have skyrocketed in Georgia recently, putting housing out of reach for many people. After seeing that housing problem, a woman started volunteering at Tiny House Hand Up to help her neighbors achieve their dreams of home ownership. That group plans to use 8 acres of donated land to build a community of Southern-style cottages with up to 600 square feet of living space. So it's all been planned out. Housing plans, they've got support from a bank, contractors ready to build at a moment's notice. And the problem is that Calhoun bans the construction of any home with less than 1,150 square feet. So it's not quite double the size of these homes, but it's substantial, the difference between 600 square feet and 1,150 square feet. Small homes are perfectly safe to live in. In fact, they're legal in many places. The fact that someone over there can live in one just fine, but over here, we can't have that. The reason for the ban on small homes is obviously to keep out undesirable people who might be able to afford to buy them. So after a brief trial, the judge ruled in favor of the organization and this woman and ruled from the bench, stopping the town from arbitrarily restricting the building of safe, affordable homes. This decision is a big deal. Absurd minimum square footage requirements are on the books in many places, and they're a huge impediment to building more affordable housing like the kind our clients want to construct. So the IJ says they'll carry on with this precedent and do it if they have to in other jurisdictions. And so, interestingly, I've actually discussed this with different people before. And they say, well, Steve, you know something? If you go into a neighborhood and they've got a bunch of homes that are all the same size, and suddenly you've got a little tiny one, kind of throws off the balance of the neighborhood. Well, until you see some neighborhoods like the one I grew up in where they came in and they knocked down all those little homes and built these Bigfoot homes right out the edge of the properties as close as you can get to the setbacks. And I mean, one person's eyesore is another person's dream home. But also, you understand that it can't be about, say, well, if you build a bunch of little homes, you'll have a ton of people there. What about an apartment complex? Okay, so, I mean, I've seen it before where there's a lot and somebody goes, I could build a home in that lot. No, I'm going to build a 5-story apartment complex. Now you want to talk about traffic, if that's your concern? And so the question always is, where are these homes being put, and are they safe to live in? And so, you know, the requirements to build a home someplace are probably going to say that it needs to have, I don't know, plumbing and electricity and those kinds of things. But the idea that the small home should be illegal, you know, there's companies and there's entire channels on television devoted to them, entire shows about them. And it's amazing what they can do with them nowadays. I've seen some very, very impressive ones. Now, I admit it would take a certain mindset to live in a small home if you're used to living in a larger home. But that's the choice that you should be making as the person in the home, not the people on the zoning board going, well, we just don't like small homes. Why not? You know? And so I've seen areas that have homes of various sizes, you know, and variety sometimes can be a good thing. But if you look at home prices, and these things do fluctuate over time. But if you look at home prices, it might be very, very difficult for you to buy a home unless something like this comes along. Or you buy a fixer-upper, I suppose. But if you're going to buy a fixer-upper, that implies that fixer-uppers exist. Now let's get back to the zoning board. Which would they rather have in their area? Fixer-uppers or smaller but nice homes? And I'll take those smaller homes all day long over the fixer-uppers. And so it does appear that the reason that law exists is they're trying to keep the low-income homeowners out because those houses cost less to buy than a larger house. So 2 big wins for the Institute for Justice, as I always tell you. They're a nonprofit organization doing extremely good work, and they're good at it. They're not just taking on good causes. They're winning the fight. So, and as I pointed out before, one of these was an appeals court, one of these was a trial court. They'll take it higher if they have to. Now, they won at the trial court. If that municipality wants to take them up on appeal, the Institute for Justice will see them in the appeals court. And if necessary, a Supreme Court. They will do this and take the fight wherever it has to go. And they will do that, but they do it because of people who generously support them. I've mentioned this. I'll put the link in the description below the video. It's ij.org. And if you can, support them. You should support them. But if you can't support them, you go, hey, Steve, I haven't got the ability right now to support anybody. Financially, no. Morally, yes. Go find their website, bookmark it. Sign up for their newsletter. It does help to know that people out there are simply on your side. And it can be a thankless task sometimes where you're constantly fighting these. It's David versus Goliath every single day for this organization. They're fighting states counties, cities, they all seemingly have deep pockets when it comes to pay for their legal fees. And the IJ is taking them on. And unfortunately, that does take money. So if you can financially support them, please do. If you can't morally support them, just let them know by signing up for the newsletter, checking out their website, watching their videos on YouTube. So the Institute for Justice, I got that from Scott Bullock, but they secured 2 victories. 2 victories helping everyday Americans protect their property rights and to pursue their dreams. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Don't worry about failures. Worry about the chances you miss when you don't even try.